So you mean to tell me that everybody in the United States is getting sick by some virus, but they don't know what it's called?
Please tell me somebody else got a really weird cold that you thought was just a cold and you were really tired like before the cold began. Like it just isn't going away. So you were like, oh, like maybe I should do a test, like maybe it's COVID, and then you do and it's not COVID.
Currently, there's a pretty bad virus going around the United States. It's kind of disguised as COVID, but you're going to test negative for COVID and the flu, and nobody knows what it is.
I feel in a pretty good position to speak on this because in December, I made videos that almost 1 million people saw where I said this is exactly what was going to happen. On Christmas Eve, I said that 1 in 35 people in the US were contagious with COVID at that moment, and we could see it in wastewater data nationally. On New Year's Eve, I said if you went out to a New Year's Eve party, it was almost certain that there would be someone with COVID in that room, and tons of people were going to get sick. 60% of the spread of COVID happens in people who will never feel symptoms or who spread to other people before their symptoms come on. This is wastewater data from BioBot. The January peak this year was higher than any peak before other than the first massive Omicron wave. So this is the second tallest wave ever. It's also not going down very steeply. So from November through February, a third of the US will have gotten COVID. And it's not just BioBot is one source. They have hundreds of testing facilities. This is Wastewater Scan that has hundreds of testing facilities across the country. They actually, for some reason, show that this most recent wave was the highest ever. I don't know if that's correct. The point is that all of them show that this last wave was really, really huge. So the question of what is everyone sick with? It's COVID. There is nothing else that is infecting millions of people a day for the last several months. If there is, tell me what it is and show your source and how you know that. We see from the wastewater that COVID is everywhere at record levels. So why are people not testing positive for it? There are 4 reasons I'm going to talk about. A mix of all these things is going on. Number 1 is that some people don't test at all. People are not testing, or they test once and get a false negative. The rapid tests are meant to be taken multiple days in a row. Number 2 is wrong timing, and I don't mean wrong in that it's your fault. What I mean is that the tests are calibrated to turn positive when you are infectious in your nose, when there's a lot of virus in your nose. So one theory for what's going on is that the virus, because of vaccines and prior infections, our body may get infected and we fight the COVID off a little bit, and it takes a longer amount of time for the COVID in our nose to reach enough viral load for the rapid test to turn positive. We don't hit the threshold for several days is basically the issue. So if you start to feel sick and you take a rapid test and you swab your nose 1 day into symptoms, 2 days into symptoms, 3, even 4, the viral load may not be high enough to make that test positive. So I personally recommend if you start to feel bad, assume it's COVID and assume that that rapid test is not going to catch it until I would test on day 4 of symptoms and day 6. And that's actually a huge problem because Paxlovid, one of the tools we have, it helps the quicker you take it. So not knowing that you have COVID until day 6 of symptoms is kind of a problem. Issue number 3 of what's going on, location. The tests that we use are supposed to be for your nose. In other countries, for example, in Canada, some of the tests are also approved to swab your cheeks and your nose. And that's what I've been doing on my tests. I have a video linked below talking about where to swab. But when I do a test, I don't eat or drink for 20 minutes. I swab my cheeks and as back into my throat as I can comfortably get. And then I do my nose. I don't go up, I go down and back. And spend a little extra time in all these places. And when you put the swab into the test vial, leave it a little extra time, a minute or 2, move it around vigorously, just do all the steps a little extra. For example, Patrick, the biosteamist, he recommends putting 1 extra drop of liquid to get more stuff into the test, and all these tests are made with a margin of error, and they say, put 4 drops. If you put 5, it's not going to mess it up, and it may actually make it more helpful. With recent variants, we're seeing even more GI issues than we used to. So one thing you can also do with a rapid test is get a matchstick amount of poop on the swab and do a test that way, or leave your excrement in the water for 10 minutes in the toilet and then swab some of the toilet water. People have shown positive tests, and actually for some people with persistent GI infections where COVID is basically setting up shop in their gut, they can test positive with this method for weeks or months after being infected. The 4th potential answer is that the tests are no longer picking up the new variants of COVID. And from what I've seen, the rapid tests are not looking for the spike protein that mutates a lot on the outside of the virus, kind of the hook that it uses to get in. The rapid tests are supposed to measure the N protein inside the cell, and there isn't as much pressure for that part of COVID to mutate. There are some mutations happening there, so my guess is that mutations and variants are not the main reason the tests aren't picking it up. I think it's more about location and timing, but this could be a factor. We're not really sure yet. I just want to return back to why all this matters. All these people posting these videos and everyone in the comments who is very sick for a long time, these people probably have long COVID. They probably have immune system issues from COVID. COVID dysregulates your immune system. And some people may not have COVID. COVID hurts your immune system. If you had COVID a few months ago, you may be more susceptible to RSV, strep, mono, just your immune system is not working as well as it used to. So also things that maybe used to clear in a day or two now hit you really, really hard. So putting all the pieces together, until someone proposes evidence for a different answer, it should be presumed to be COVID because we have record levels of COVID. It's that simple. If you don't wear a mask, if you don't try and avoid COVID in the winter when cases are surging, if you don't talk to your friends and family about this, if you don't try and change the culture and let people know, hey, COVID is still around, it's messing me up, it's messing my friends up, I'm seeing all this stuff on social media, let's read about it, let's become informed. If you want to ignore this and pretend it's not happening, you will get sick. It's that simple. Again, about 30 to 40% of the entire US just got sick with COVID in the last 4 months. And the fact that you don't want to talk or think about that is just, it doesn't work. And I've said this on my channel before, you don't get to decide when you're done with COVID. COVID gets to decide when it's done with you, and it is not done with us yet, and it is not going to be done for a long time. So we need to create a new normal that takes COVID into account, which doesn't mean ignoring it, which means doing things to keep ourselves safe. It doesn't necessarily mean lockdown. I don't think that's going to happen. It does mean wearing masks more often, using tests more often, changing your decisions and behavior, saying I'm not going to fly across country for Christmas because I'll probably get someone sick or get myself sick, and I'm not going to do that anymore. And those are hard things to decide to do, but this is the alternative, is people posting videos of I'm so sick and I don't know why. So if that's the life you want to choose, go for it. It's not what I'm going to do, and it's what the people following me on this channel and anyone who takes COVID seriously, we are protecting ourselves, we are protecting other people, and we are not sick all the time. I'm pretty happy with that choice.